Siddiqui, yes.
Hey, it's Alex Williams of the New Stack here for more from PagerDuty Summit in San Francisco, California. We're here at the Westin Hotel. I am joined today with Abdullah Siddiqui, a site reliability engineer at Xero. That can be a mouthful.
Yeah. Can be a bit of a mouthful, yeah. I think you did really well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm curious about how the role of the SRE is evolving. And I'd like to learn a little bit more about Xero. Perhaps you could tell us about Xero, just for people who are not familiar with it.
Yeah, sure. So Xero is a kind of cloud accounting platform. So we kind of help small to medium-sized businesses do things like reconcile their bank statements, create reports for tax purposes, and we also kind of make a suite of products more targeted towards accountants and bookkeepers too. So Xero started back in 2006. In an apartment with about 4 people, and since then, it's kind of grown to a very large global company with, serving well over 1 million customers, and we've got over 2,000 employees globally now too.
Wow,
it's come a long way. Yeah.
That is something else.
Yeah.
So when did you join the company?
So I joined the company just about 1 year and about a month ago. So 1 year and 1 month is how long I've been here. And it's been quite a journey. I kind of joined in the phase where we're kind of really starting to pick up our scaling in terms of our product delivery and our platform. So I've joined in a really interesting time and a really challenging time too. Yeah.
What were you doing prior?
Prior to here, I was working as an IT consultant at IBM.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So had you encountered scale like you had seen?
Not in the way that I've seen at Xero. It's been really cool. Yeah.
What was this? Tell us about where you were and when you arrived at Xero. What was tell us about the level of activity that you were seeing, kind of on the infrastructure itself and on the platform.
Yeah. So we're definitely seeing a really big ramp up in terms of concurrent users that we see on our platform, and as a result of that, our product teams have to be aware of that and ensure that they're building sort of the reliability parts of the app into it. So we have to make sure that we're not, we have enough kind of the monitoring and the alerting and all that kind of stuff available, the right processes available to ensure that we can deliver the best value to our customers all the time.
So when you joined Xero,
yeah,
and comparing it today, can you tell us a little bit about kind of the differences you've seen in the platform in terms of the scale?
As in the growth and scale?
Yeah, and like how you've been, because that can give us a context for how you're managing it now and how you're thinking about managing it.
Yeah, so we've kind of matured a lot in terms of the way we do things like manage incidents, the way we do alerting, the way we do monitoring, the way we kind of consult product teams on how best to build and what best practices that they can follow. So in terms of scaling, we've been able to reduce the number of incidents, the length of incidents, the way we kind of, the time to resolution for incidents, how quickly we react to problems in our production environment. And that's kind of the SRE role, that's where my role has kind of come in. We kind of build the tools and stuff that can help us do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the role of the SRE is a new one. How do you define your role?
It's an interesting one, right? Because it's new in the North American scene, but it's even newer in where I'm from, in my part of the world. So we're kind of, not to say making it up as we go. The SRE is kind of meant to be traditionally, I guess, some mixture of a developer and an operations engineer.
Right.
And we kind of at Xero also, that's the philosophy that we follow. But on top of that, I guess our purpose at Xero as SREs is to help empower our product teams to be able to own their own products in production. So we kind of build the tools, create the practices, create the processes that help enable our product teams to do that and really own their products in production.
So tell us about your work there. What is your day-to-day work?
So day-to-day work is just simply working on things like our chatbot. So really doing a lot of development work, really. Working on developing tools, working on stuff like the way we build our on-call as code configuration, our chatbot that manages incidents, our discovery framework of microservices that we're building to kind of help us get SLOs visible for our company on our products, Just things like that, mostly development work, really. It's really rare for me to kind of have to take my time out to do things like operational work. That stuff is there, of course. It's always going to be there. I'll also go on call and do stuff like interrupts work. But most of the time, I'm developing kind of internal products for our product teams to use.
So tell us about the team you work with. Do you work with other SRE engineers?
Yep. So our team is split into 3 pieces. We've got a team based in Wellington, New Zealand. We've got a team based in Auckland, New Zealand. And we've got a team here in the States in Denver. So they kind of help us kind of cover the other hours when we go on call and all that. So we kind of try to we've tried different approaches to working globally, working regionally. Right now we're working more closely with our regional team. So I'm working really closely with my team in Auckland. There's about 6 of us right now. And we kind of work on one project together. So
that's a little bit how your team is structured.
Yeah.
tell us about that. Tell us more about how your team is structured. Like when you're thinking about, your team in Auckland and coordinating with other teams around the world.
Sure. So I mean, we're headquartered out of Wellington. I guess Xero is. So we've got our head of site reliability based there, and they'll kind of help guide us in terms of our overall vision and the kinds of things. So we kind of work on an OKR basis. So we have objectives and key results. So each of our regions has a certain objective that we're trying to achieve, and we kind of define the key results and how we can achieve them. So in Auckland, we've got a regional team leader, so our Auckland team lead that I work under. He kind of helps guide us. So we kind of wear different hats now and then. We'll kind of be our own project managers, our own product owners. We'll kind of architect our solutions ourselves, and then we'll go ahead and build all that stuff too. That's the kind of way we operate in the Auckland SRE team, yeah.
So it's OKR, you said it?
Yeah.
That stands for what again?
Objectives and key results. So
okay.
That's the way we kind of structure our work goals, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you define the objectives and the key results? What are the things that you're trying to define?
So we kind of work based on group consensus. We kind of figure out what's the most important thing based on our conversations, or our leaders' conversations in the company about what the SRE team needs to do to help promote reliability in the organization. And based on that, we get feedback, and then we kind of use consensus within the team to figure out what the best thing is for us to be working on right now.
So what are you measuring then? What are some of the particular types of data points that you're looking for?
Sure. So something like, how do we measure service availability for our products in the organization? How do we obtain that data, and then how we measure it and reflect it back to our product teams would be one example, yeah.
So now considering that, how have your teams changed over the past year? I mean, you were talking with Judy earlier. We're Xero users, and we use it quite a bit. But when we started in 2014,
yep.
there weren't as many people out there like accountants and bookkeepers who were using it.
Yep.
And now today, I'm curious about the business and how you need to think about how you manage your work, and thinking how you kind of keep the operation running.
I guess from our point of view, it's to ensure that we can provide the best tooling possible for our product teams to ensure that they can focus on always be releasing and always be adding value to our customers. Mm-hmm. So if they have the ability to be, release constantly and have a safe production environment, as a result of the tools and processes that we've created, then we can help ensure that there's always value going out to people like accountants and bookkeepers, and we can keep growing ourselves in that aspect. Yeah.
So when you're thinking about the support role that you play, how has that changed? I mean, you now have you have regional SRE groups, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't always that way.
So I think the SRE,
or was it? I don't know.
So the SRE team was born a little bit before I joined the company,
right?
And I think it did start out so we had various operations teams in different organizations, and we also had stuff like performance monitoring teams and all that. And we kind of came together so we grew an SRE team out of those various teams, and with a new vision in mind, of course. So as a result of that, we did start off, having a different global organization, different global teams, and then from there onwards, we've kind of moved on with that model. Yeah.
Okay. So were DevOps practices, they must have been being integrated when you were there, when you joined the company, obviously.
Yes, yep.
And I'm curious now how you're seeing the DevOps practices start to evolve, and what role, for example, PagerDuty plays in that. We're here at the PagerDuty Summit.
Yeah, sure. So PagerDuty has been a big help for us to kind of superpower our incident response process. We kind of, we created a lot of tools on top of the PagerDuty APIs. Things like, our on-call as code management system, our incident management chatbot. We've made a microservice to help analyze our alerts. All of these things have kind of helped empower our DevOps process as we go, as we kind of try to help our product teams. All of these things help us to do that. Yeah.
Okay. So when you're thinking about PagerDuty and how it, and how you're relying on it, what are some of the benchmarks you look at? What are some of the things that are important for you to monitor that PagerDuty helps you with?
I guess how many product teams that we can get on call, because it's important for us to be able to help empower our product teams to own their own stuff. And an important facet of that is ensuring that they can get on call and receive the alerts for their own own products. Also things like ensuring that the time to resolve alerts is reduced, the time to kind of the alert noise is reduced. All of these things are where PagerDuty sort of helps us.
We heard a lot about that today, about alert noise, right?
Yeah.
And the CEO of Gap was talking about if you look in, like on a street, there can be all kinds of activity, and it may seem like mayhem or chaos, but there's actually some flow to it and such. But when you're thinking about DevOps, how are you separating the noise, and what are some of the challenges you're starting to see come of that?
It comes from a maturing process of knowing which kind of signals you should be listening for and which things you shouldn't be. And I think us at Xero, as we've kind of matured in the SRE space and the DevOps space, we've kind of figured out what the right signals are and what's more important. What we can make runbooks for are the things that we generally consider important signals, and based on that is how we've kind of defined what stuff we can cut out and what stuff we should keep. Yeah.
So the technology architecture itself, is it, how do you use Amazon Web Services, or you use Amazon Web Services?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Okay, and so when you're thinking about that in terms of your own technology, your technology architecture, and using a service like Amazon Web Services, you must be distributed across multiple regions then.
Yep.
Is that how then the role of SRE has helped kind of evolve too with you? Is thinking about if you're a global organization and you're working with a cloud service like AWS, the teams need to be organized accordingly.
Oh, I wouldn't say we've organized our team according to that, but we've definitely taken advantage of that kind of regional availability zones. We have taken advantage of that in our cloud platform for sure. Yeah.
So when you're thinking about when you're thinking about PagerDuty and how you're using PagerDuty, in that kind of global environment, what are some of the key indicators you're looking for when you're using PagerDuty on a daily basis?
I guess just the fact that we can take advantage of all the features that the PagerDuty API offers us. So we've built a lot of tooling on top of it, and I guess that's kind of helped us to really drive through reliability in the organization and kind of give us a sense of standardization on how we alert. So, based on that, it's really important for us that PagerDuty is kind of there for us. We've created a sort of a multi-layered approach to the way we receive alerts. If product teams aren't able to field their alerts, then the SRE team can field them, and then we can be the ones to kind of help triage an issue. So that's where PagerDuty's really helped us and really become really critical to our infrastructure.
What's been the tooling that you've been building on top of on top of this PagerDuty platform?
Yeah, sure. So like I mentioned, we've built an on-call as code platform. Mm-hmm. So a team can define a configuration file, and that's how they kind of set up their roster and their schedule. And any new team that comes on board can just kind of submit a pull request to this system, and that's how they integrate themselves into our PagerDuty management system. We've also built chatbots that can use the PagerDuty APIs to do things like send pages, get on-call rosters, and get alerts and all that too. So that's some of the examples of the tooling we've built.
So what are the integration points that you're building? What are some of the other tools you're using with PagerDuty now?
It's integrated into things like our Slack, into as an example, with the way we use our chatbot, we'll kind of receive alerts, and we can...
Tell us about your chatbot. I'm curious on how you're using chatbots.
Sure. So our chatbot is made to kind of wrap the incident management process that we have at Xero. So its kind of key purpose is to guide an engineer through the incident response process, because it can often be a scary and kind of, stressful process, right, for an engineer who might be battling with an incident or a failure in our production environment. So we need to give the engineer an interface that's as simple and easy to run through as possible. So our chatbot will kind of give things like a dynamic checklist to follow. It'll give a set of base commands that can be run to ensure that the incident is resolved. It'll help them communicate to the wider audience. It'll help them build the right responder team using PagerDuty to be able to page the right team and the right individuals to get them on board and resolve the alert a bit quicker. So things like that. It'll also help us in the post-mortem process by creating our post-mortem document for us and helping get that process kick-started too.
The post-mortem process.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Sure. So our chatbot will create a post-mortem document with data collated from the incident, and then it'll, at the leisure of the incident commander, they can set a kickoff meeting to go in and fill out the rest of that document to talk about things like what went wrong, what went well, and from there onwards we can kind of create a set of actionable tasks that can be run against the incident to ensure that something like this, maybe doesn't happen again, and we can kind of, build our products to be a little bit better.
Okay, so that's a DevOps practice then. You're using you're doing that. You're creating those loops.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so how is that evolving? How the chatbot integration is one example. The level of complexity must be rising though too, because as as the company scales and in terms of number of users and load on the platform.
So we've seen, obviously, like you said, a larger portion of users getting onto our platform. As a result of that, we've had to kind of meta-analyze our postmortems a little bit to kind of find out what sort of trends we're seeing in our postmortems and, what are the common occurring issues. And based on that, we've been able to sort of prioritize work, kind of find out what the common themes are, and then kind of action, maybe some of the more technical debt-focused tasks over feature work in our product teams to help ensure the stability of the platform, really.
The technical debt.
Yeah.
Tell us about your technical debt.
I mean, just like any SaaS organization, we have it, right? Yeah. So then we need to be able to ensure that we are balancing the technical debt and the feature work correctly, and that's where the SRE role is really important, and the way the postmortem process is really important too. So we've kind of ensured that we can put enough emphasis on it and ensure that it gets action in our product teams. Yeah.
So how has your job changed?
How's my job changed? I mean, my job has been more about kind of helping build those tools, like I mentioned, and ensuring that we are always on the ball with how accurate we can get our data to help support our product teams. When we're looking at things like showing service availability, we need to make sure we're spot on with that, because we don't want to be giving bad data to our product teams we need to give a true picture of how things are looking in our production environments. So in that sense, it's important for us to ensure that we've got the right development practice in place in our team to build the right tools. And that's how my job's kind of changed. We have to, think about our customers too, who are our product teams, and be constantly getting their feedback and getting their input to make sure we're building the right thing too.
How is PagerDuty playing a role in that?
So PagerDuty, like I've mentioned already, it's kind of helping us, using stuff like their APIs and just their base functionality that we get out of alerting has kind of helped us streamline that process a little bit and helped us build better tools for that purpose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're building better tools for that purpose, but you're using PagerDuty because it helps kind of, what is it about that granularity that is offered? That's what you're going to increasingly need to get that observability. And what are you looking for from like a platform like PagerDuty going forward?
I guess we're looking for just kind of maybe more power from the API to be able to build better tools almost, kind of just we're always thinking about more ways that we can leverage that platform and kind of build more tooling on top of it. So like I talked about, we decided to build a microservice on top of our alerts too, to kind of give our product teams a bit of leeway into analyzing their own alerts. So we kind of expose that as an API to our product teams, and they can go in and find their alerts and maybe do any sort of reporting or meta-analysis of those things too. So things like that are kind of what we kind of look for from PagerDuty, to be able to empower us to do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting to think about kind of how that role is going to continue to evolve.
Yeah.
And that's going to affect how you think of your infrastructure, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
As we kind of learn more from when things fail and the sort of building reliability into our products, we're definitely going to find themes and issues that we can kind of focus on, and we'll find best practices that we can focus on, and that's how we'll kind of go forward, I think.
And with those best practices, that you've been learning about, how is that changing? Is that changing your view on how you think about your overall distributed architectures and how you think about using distributed infrastructure? I mean, we're seeing a lot more interest in things like Kubernetes, for example.
Yeah, and so are we. So we've looked into those things too, and we're kind of in the middle of, we're in the thick of it right now in terms of the way we use our infrastructure and the way, so other teams in the organization are looking at things like Kubernetes, and so are we really, containers and all that. It's stuff that we're already using, but we want to take it to the next level. So we're definitely, it's in the back of our minds for sure. Yeah.
What is the next level?
I guess, taking better advantage of our container story and our container orchestration story, using things like Kubernetes is definitely on the back of our minds, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So are you starting to use it in production, container technologies and such?
For the tools that we build in SRE, yes, we are. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
So what are those tools you're building in SRE? You mentioned,
so even things like our chatbot is deployed in a container to our Amazon ECS. Yeah. So that's lives in a container. We deploy it as a container too. Yeah.
So as the world, as you've adopted more of these cloud native practices, right? Then how has the role of PagerDuty changed? Has it at all? Is there any kind of learning you've had from this move toward cloud native approaches and thinking about tools such as PagerDuty?
Maybe not in the sense of kind of building on containers. PagerDuty's always been there for us to support us in terms of the way we, leverage their API and to help us in our alerting and monitoring practices. But yeah, in terms of the products we build and how we use containers, maybe not so much with PagerDuty, but it's definitely something we'll think about going forward as we build more tools. Yeah.
So, So tell us about, I mean, just in conclusion, I would love to kind of like get an idea of how does event response work at Zero? Like, can you give us an example, or walk us through like a typical event?
Sure. I guess, we've got the standard monitoring and alerting system that any organization would. We'll have our software running somewhere. It'll have instrumentation set up to be able to monitor the software based on things like logs or metrics. The monitoring system will be watching for some sort of anomalous behavior or some threshold being breached, and then based on that, we'll get an alert triggering and through PagerDuty received by an engineer with enough information for them to action it, maybe a runbook attached, maybe information about what site they were browsing, the person was browsing, or what using resource tags will kind of zero in on what the specific area is where the problem is, and based on that, the engineer will be able to do something about it. Yeah.
So this event-driven world that we're living in, how do you see that evolving? How do you see it evolving as you're kind of in your role as an SRE?
I guess we definitely have to be listening for kind of the different types of events now, and as we build our tools, we have to ensure that we can account for different types of events coming into our systems, and the way we kind of alert has to change too to account for that.
Say that again, then.
I guess it's more like we'll take with this whole event-driven style. I mean, do you mean more in terms of like different kinds of PagerDuty events, or how do you mean? I'm
thinking just like we're moving into much more of like this event-driven world. And we're seeing far more uses of declarative, capabilities, right? To be able to track these events. So if you see patterns in the events, you can start to think through like, okay, so maybe we need to almost like store this as state, right? And being able to starting to pull these patterns together so we can start to kind of like optimize our workflows.
I think we are starting to think about that. It's definitely not something that's been, I guess, on the top of our minds right now, as we kind of build towards other tools right now. But I think we'll get to that point for sure. Yeah.
So where would you say you are at this point then?
I guess, I mean, I wouldn't be able to say with confidence where we are really. I guess it's kind of
yeah.
So.
But when you're thinking about event response, kind of like maybe more like on a support level then.
Yeah.
In terms of how you're kind of responding to to events, right? What are some of the things that you're seeing that you've been working on, that you've been kind of like optimizing so you can make those incremental improvements?
I guess, I mean, maybe to answer the question, I'm not sure if I'm going to be answering it correctly. We've kind of found that we've got different sources of events coming in or alerts coming in into our system. So we've kind of defined a way to be able to action them in an automated fashion, like the way I talked about. But we also need to, think about that. Not all of our events, all of our issues that we see in our production environments are going to be coming from automated sources. So our monitoring can't be perfect. There's going to be things that we might not know about that's not visible in a dashboard to us using our monitoring software. So we've kind of also created a manual way of triggering events and triggering alerts into our incident management process. So that's kind of one other way that we've kind of ensured that we can have a full picture of what problems there are in our production environments.
Right. It just is it's a topic of interest to us because now you have you have so many tools available at your disposal, right? It gets back to the kind of that noise issue, right? And like how you think about it. I'm curious then too, about how that how kind of that scale affects your teams, and you're telling us basically, I expect you'll continue to be building out your SRE teams around the world as
well. We definitely are doing that. So, we're trying to grow our teams in each region and each location, and, to help support the scale that we're seeing nowadays. And it's definitely been the top of our priority,
Event intelligence is an interesting topic, I think, too, and then getting back to that, it's like, because it is so broad, but the way that PagerDuty seems to be talking about it is like being able to almost like think about your time, right? To think not to be so reactionary, but to be more predictive. I guess that's part of a real, must be kind of thinking in your journey.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we haven't taken advantage of the event intelligence offering from PagerDuty yet, but it's something that I think we'll definitely be talking to our account manager about because it looks like a really cool offering,
Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I've been with Abdullah Siddiqui, a site reliability engineer from Zero. He's here from Auckland, New Zealand, where we have one of our employees. So
that's really awesome.
So we'll have to keep in touch and keep doing the great work that Zero does. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.